David Paul Meyer is the director of The Daily Show, and this summer he earned his first Emmy nomination for Best Directing for a Variety Series, as well as a nomination for Best Variety Talk Series as a producer of the show. So first off, congratulations on those. And what did you think about getting those two nominations this year?
Oh man, it was like, it's such a strange time, to be thinking about awards, given all that's going on. So it's like these are very strange times, obviously, and uncertain with everything that's going on. However, I will say, it felt really good. We all have been working extremely hard during the pandemic on the show and putting out episodes that I think we're all really, really, really proud of. And I'm just honored to be a part of a great team. And honestly, I don't know how much you know about Trevor and I's past, but he and I go back a really long time. He was the person who gave me my first directing job. I met him back in 2008 when he was just a comic in South Africa, and did my thesis project on him actually for film school. So to be on this journey with him, who's someone who's a great boss, but also he's my best friend. So for me, to have that, with him, I can't even, it's honestly, I'm touched to be able to be in the situation with him, because he always believed in me and my ability, even when I was just some film school kid. And so to have him, give me this shot and get to work with him and see what he's become, which has been insane, because when I saw him, he was he was a South African guy, and they didn't even have comedy clubs in South Africa when I met him. So obviously that journey in and of itself. So then this is just a continuation of that. And then just the people I've met along the way, especially being able to work with the editors, how we've worked, and we'll get into it, but just all the people who have been working so hard, it just felt like we all really shared in this one. And I think maybe the pandemic even heightened that feeling, of working with them, working with Jen Flans, the showrunner, who's we really got to do some really good creative stuff where we were collaborating creatively. And so it's great to be recognized by it.
And as you mentioned, your work with Trevor Noah in the past, has all that work and all that history and directing his stand-up specials, has that really kind of helped with the sort of transition into the social distancing show, since so much of that is very much kind of Trevor Noah as almost a comedy one-man band at sometimes, doing commentary and bits from his apartment? Did that sort of prepare you well?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, making films and stuff in South Africa, first of all, Trevor always joked, he's if you can do stuff here, you can do it anywhere. He's this is the wild west out here. He used to always tell me that. So from my history with him of just making a documentary with him in South Africa, I direct his stand-up specials, and figuring out how to even do something like a stand-up special in South Africa, where that wasn't even that was the performance art that was very new to the country. So when we were making these stand-up specials, we were just figuring stuff out as we went along. Same thing, and we made some web. We've done a ton of work together over the years. So to have that shorthand with him, and to be able to understand what each other is saying or whatever, and think makes I can't even put a price tag on how much that's worth. Where you, especially in this time where everybody's collaborating remotely and virtually and Zooming, and people need call, and it can sometimes take longer to figure things out. He and I's shorthand has really been massive for that. And also the fact that we're both before I went to film school, I have a computer science degree as well. So I have a tech background, and Trevor's actually super into tech as well and is incredibly tech savvy. And so and that's a thing that we always sort of just we're always talking shop tech, just as a hobby almost, at this. And so all of that, it's crazy how all of those things sort of combined together to sort of make this a moment in time where it just made sense for us to be collaborating in this way. And it's really helped us a lot, I think, to have that history and to have that background, to have to have known each other for now, 12 years has been really, and been working together that whole time has really been, I feel like, giving us a huge, you know, I can't even put a price tag on how much that's worth. Where you, especially in this time where everybody's collaborating remotely and virtually and Zooming, and people need call, and people need call, and over 12 years has been really, and been working together that whole time has really been, I feel like, giving us a huge, you know, advantage in being able to just get stuff done, you know, to put a show out every day. Just to be able to put a show out in a pandemic 4 days a week is like, there are days where I'm just like, even now I'm still like, it's always crazy now. You know what I mean? You're always just like, okay, we got it out. Okay, we got to do it tomorrow. Where it's like, when we're at the studio, you're like, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a show. Like early on, they were like, is there going to be a show? We don't, you know, so having that with him, that sort of through line of like my relationship with him through all this has been really great and really made a huge difference, I think, with the way that we've worked together.
And you're nominated specifically for the episode in which Trevor interviewed Dr. Anthony Fauci, which was really obviously a highly sought after interview at the time. What was it like going into that episode, just trying to kind of make sure everything was working properly? You know, what were the technical challenges of it?
Yes.
You know, what was going on during that one?
Yeah, because at that time it was like, that was in March still. So that was like when things were like really tough. And, you know, on our side, it was like, you know, Trevor over Skype, it's like, that's a fair, and, you know, we had figured out how to record, like get high, you know, to get HD quality recording from these, from Skype at that point, which was good. And we sort of had Trevor's side figured out pretty well, but it was obviously Dr. Fauci, and it wasn't that he was just remote. It was that he was, you know, in a federal government building. He was at somewhere at the, not the CDC, the I forget, the NIH or whatever, wherever I forget the name of that building. It's on the wall behind him in the interview. You can see it there. The Infectious Diseases Center that he works out of, and that place apparently was like, there was a team that he was working with on his side that was like, okay, they're going to let us go in there and set up these like cameras and film them. And then we'll do the Skype call, but we'll send you the high quality interview footage and you'll be able to use that. Like they had thought that they were still going to be able to do it the old way, you know, the traditional way of like bringing actual cameras into the space. And then it was like the day before they were like, actually, none of that is going to happen now. We think we've got his assistant or somebody who's not a technical person, who's going to be there to help, like one of the people who just like another person who works with, like, you know, Fauci's assistant, not a person who knows, you know, not an AV guy or woman, you know what I mean? Like, so I remember like, so they were just like, we don't know. So I was like, well, let's just, you know, record. We figured out how to record Skype. I was like, let's hope that, we'll you know, it'll happen. So like, and again too, because like a lot of times federal, I'm sorry, I like getting very technical, as you see, but like federal government too, like recording remote calls and Skype calls, that works easily with you and I. But a lot of these government buildings, they have all this firewall stuff going on because they're like, we don't want people recording, you know? So I had no idea if there was going to be any kind of security stuff. And I was like, I guess we'll just try. And we called that day and I was like, and it connected. And sure enough, he just had some guy there who was like, I don't really know any of this tech stuff, so I'm just doing my best. And I was like, hey man, we're all doing our best right now. Don't even worry about it. And they got the shot set up. Fauci came in and we did ask them, which was a great save actually, to, you know, with I talk about iPhones so much and how they've been incredible tools for this, where like they, like the iPhones are incredible. So we were like, hey, can you also just do a self-record on the iPhone? Just set it up. It doesn't even need to look good. And they were like, sure. So the guy set it up, and while the video didn't look great, but the video on the webcam actually worked. It was like what you saw straight from the webcam. But the audio on the iPhone was amazing, even better than the audio. And I felt that was incredibly important because he was what I've noticed from people watching. I watch with you know, like when people are watching stuff now at their homes, they're pretty forgiving of video hitches here and there on like remote calls. I think people have gotten used to that. But the audio is so important because if you can't understand, you can forgive like if their mouth freezes for a half second or whatever, if it's a little, the eye forgives. But the audio plays to your subconscious, and it's so, and he was talking about such incredibly important stuff. Like, I remember my parents were like texting me like, hey, that was really helpful for us, just to give us information about coronavirus. So having that good quality audio off of the iPhone that we could then marry to the video was such a huge thing, because the audio on his webcam was not great. It was like very distorted. It wasn't a great, like, and so that was like, and you're just like, man, I will definitely say they always taught us this in film school, how like you need a little bit of luck in this. And like there've been stuff that there's been some mistakes, but there's also been like some luck. And like, I felt like I was so glad that we had that backup audio to really help the viewer at home hear and understand and processes it, because it was so important. So yeah, that was quite a, and you know, again, we didn't know, because like I said, they thought, they were very confident. I don't remember who the team was on their side, that they were like, we can't get into the building. They won't let anybody in. So.
Yeah, and you know, with the challenges of directing remotely and working with writers and editors and the entire team from the show remotely, like, how has the process kind of evolved over the months since since the daily social distancing show has been in effect, and have things streamlined, is like the trial and error, like, you know, stuff that you learn along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, so for us with the show, especially with the Daily Show, the key thing stylistically that changed, other than just like the location of being at his home, is like we did a lot with the rhythm and the pacing and the timing of the show, and also with the way that we, you know, generally when you do the Daily Show, it's in front of a studio audience, and you just basically have a line cut, and it's like, you know, everything is sort of recorded as if it were a live show, even though it's taped a few hours before usually, although we've done live. But like when you see the Daily Show, when we are live, those nights that we're live, it's pretty much you're seeing the same thing. So much of it is done just in the taping. And for us, the biggest thing has been a massive shift in the creative with the show, the creative direction of the show, to post-production in our edit team, who also have got nominated. And I can't even begin to tell you the heroes that our edit team are. They're incredible. And they've bailed my ass out so many times, to be honest with you. So so we figured out like ways to like shoot, you know, like, so normally you just, with the Daily Show or whatever in front of an audience, you start at the beginning and you go to the end, and you record the whole show, and that's it. Now that there's not an audience, we've realized very soon we can shoot this more like how you would maybe shoot like a film, where you have like, you don't maybe shoot the script in order. You maybe shoot certain chunks first, and then you go back and pick up other stuff. And we've actually found that like for Trevor, it's like we shoot sort of the, like just the sort of basic plot of each news segment first, and then we'll come in, and then we'll have him like do the jokes. And this was a thing that he was very set on, because it helped him with his performance as well. And so we sort of like shot stuff out of order. We moved stuff around. We also like your tosses and your bumpers and stuff to pieces. You sort of you shoot that stuff at the beginning to get him into a rhythm, so that and then we sort of save the jokes and the big stuff at the end, where we have, you know, he's sort of been talking and he's warmed up and he's in a rhythm. And so then when the jokes come, he can really hit those punchlines hard, and and then we maybe like take that again. You know, we say, hey, Trevor, can you do that again for us? You know, and maybe we can actually direct his performance a little bit, which you can't do when you're doing in front of an audience. So like learning how to do that process. So there was some stuff we learned with streamlining the shooting, but then with the edit, that was really where a lot of that came in. And that's where we sort of have our screening team. We're all on FaceTime, the editor's there holding it up, and we're giving our notes on the edit. And that's where we learned, like we learned some new techniques, and we sort of came up with our own sort of language for the show that's new, in terms of like, we have punch-ins now, where a lot of times, like with Trevor, I'm sure you've seen this if you've been watching the show. Like, let's say he's talking about a story, and then I'm sure Trump was like, and then we cut to a Trump impression. We'll punch in. It's like we may throw up a graphic of Trump, and like we sort of jump cut around and stuff. We took a lot of inspiration, honestly, from some of the YouTube shows, which is sort of a style that you see like with like YouTube shows online, where it's a lot more, they're not sitting around waiting for an audience laugh. they're just hitting you. And we really, if you notice now, there's not a lot of pauses when he's delivering his monologue. Whereas if you watch a show that's in front of the audience, there's pauses just because people are laughing. He has to. He can't just talk over big laughs. So like that really changed the rhythm of the show by not having an audience. And that actually gave us an opportunity to rethink the actual show itself. So like being able to get creative with the edit. You see a lot more graphical stuff that we do now, not just like cutting to like news tear outs or news footage. We're doing like, you know, we make the footage black and white and like put a hat on Trevor and some glasses or whatever, like all that stuff. And that stuff is so cool because like we'll have our group who's like screening and we'll be like, we'll watch the act, then we all give our notes. Then somebody may have it. Some of the stuff maybe was thought of beforehand when they were writing the script, but some of the stuff we come up right at the end and it's just like, and then Jen will like toss it over to graphics and their graphics team, our visual effects guys are so quick. And we'll have an idea. Like there was this idea of like where Trevor did a joke about a Tennessee Volunteers fan the other day. And like he did it. And we were like, it would be really cool if he was wearing like a Vols hat. And they like went and put the Vols hat on. And then it was funny. I saw that Tennessee actually, they had announced that they got signed some recruit for basketball for next year. And they cut to this clip of Trevor as the Vols fan with the Vols hat on for their little meme, you know, for their social. But that's just like a perfect example of how like none of this, what I just told you, was in the show before the pandemic. And it's just a different show now. We had to, and we figured it out. And it's like, why not really lean into the fact that we don't have an audience and see what we can innovate from that versus just trying to like, you know, sort of, and look, I got to give a huge credit to Trevor because like as a performer, as a comedian, also as someone who has a background in stand-up, you're very much used and keyed into an audience. So he really had to reach down deep somewhere inside to figure out how he was going to like, and he had to work his ass off. Like he said, I worked my ass off to get here because like at the beginning, he was just like, there'd be a couple times, you know, where he might hear someone laugh on the FaceTime and he'd be like, oh, I miss audience laughter. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And so for him to like, it took his performance. It took the collaboration of producers and myself who were on this call, these screening calls. It took the editors to be able to just turn it and do this stuff quickly because we're doing it every day and they don't have a lot of time. The graphics team. So everybody was really involved in that. And we just sort of learned over time to streamline these things. And just like, if you can save like 5 minutes, you know what I mean? That's huge in this. So I think that answered your, you know, streamlining and lessons learned. I think you can see the difference. If you watch like one of those March shows till now, you'll see like a lot of it just like, and then once you get into that routine, the other thing that we really try to do too with the technical is to, again, I talk a lot about iPhones and to keep it simple, to keep it as fail-safe as possible and not to try to have too many moving parts with the tech because tech fails. I come from a computer science, like they teach you that, like expect it to fail. It sounds great when people are pitching you something, but expect the thing to fail. Expect the person to forget to unmute on Zoom. Expect the person's, you know, like maybe the internet goes down. I don't know. Like, how do you figure these things out? So because we kept it, I feel like fairly simply, like just everybody knows how to do FaceTime. You know what I mean? Because we kept it so simple with that, we have such a simple sort of like infrastructure that we're working off of. It gives us more time to focus on these creative choices, which I think is what you really want. You don't really want to be messing around with like remote this and remote tech that. You want to be talking about like, how do we punch this joke up? We've got 10 minutes. Can we do it? Can we throw in a graphic? This run here where he's saying there's like nothing else changing, it's him talking. Maybe if we just throw some flag icons in there to like sort of like let you track with it, that'll make sometimes it's like a home run. Sometimes you're just hitting singles and doubles to just sort of like advance the headline, the news segment. And so that's where I think having a simple system has allowed us to really like spend most of our time focusing on creative.
Well, I mean, as someone who has, you know, done interviews and worked online like this, I feel your pain on the tech fails and and the internet goes out and any number of challenges that the Emmys have nominated you for surmounting. I want to congratulate you again on those nominations and thank you so much for joining me today.
That was great. I wanted to give you one little last anecdote that I think you'll like hearing.
Absolutely.
Only because this is like one of those weird, and then I'll let you go. So there's, we had done, before coronavirus, we had, back when we were doing things traditionally and you could have people on set, and I really miss being on set. I mean, because I also, so I direct, before, directing how I am now, I was directing like our sketches and stuff pre-coronavirus. So like the episode that we were nominated for, the Black Therapy sketch, I directed that sketch with Jabuki and Roy, where they're doing like the therapy session. But so we would do these sketches and stuff. So I was on set. We were on set. We had rented out. We were doing a sketch on the F-35, the like expensive fighter jet that they've like, it's been a money pit. It's wasted all this taxpayer dollars. So like back in like, I think it was in January, we did a normal shoot. We found like this fighter jet simulator somewhere out in Long Island, and we were on some like tiny airstrip shooting, and it was great. And we had this beautiful, it was basically like a Top Gun trailer parody that we had made. And it was like amazing. And we edited, it was done, it was ready to roll in. And then like, because a lot of times with the shows, like you have stuff ready, but then the news of the day may change, you have to hold it or whatever. So the story went away, then the pandemic came, then it was just like, there was nothing. Then we were like, well, I guess that F-35 sketch is never gonna air. It was this beautiful thing. Roy Wood Jr. gave an incredible performance. He's so funny. And then like a few weeks ago, because Congress deliberating, something came up, some bill or whatever, and the F-35 came up with their bill, and we were like, the F-35 thing, but we still have that sketch, and we were like able to like, connect into the network at the show and download the file that we had, and like, sure enough, I'll be damned if that thing, ended up airing, this is 6 months after we shot it, it finally aired. So I just thought that was an interesting thing of like, even stuff before coronavirus, we ended up rolling into the show. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I was just so happy because I thought that thing was dead. So
yeah, absolutely. That it's great to it's always great to never have to like, kill your darlings forever. Like sometimes you put your darlings in a drawer and you can pull it back out again.
Exactly. No, anyway.
Thank you again for joining me. This was great.
Yeah, man, I had a blast. Thanks so much, and good luck with everything. And it was a pleasure talking with you.